Welcome to Jon Ferrian Live. It is Sunday night, the last Sunday night of 2020. Can you believe it? We have made it. We have survived. We are here living large at the end of 2020, and it's only days away. Days away. 2021 will be here, and I'm sure everybody's lives will be immediately better than it was yesterday after 2020 ends, right? Yeah, probably not. It was a good try, but why not? Let's talk about it. So everybody drop it in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. I see Tia Smith, one of our top fans, one of our favorite people here every single week from Santa Barbara, California. Tia is here watching the show today. We've got it going on. So we got Scott L. Barton from Puyallup. Let us know where you're watching from right now. Drop it in the comments. Drop it in the comments. We've got goodbye 2020. Thank God, somebody says. Pat says. Bill Semmel says hi from Ronald, Washington. Patrick Fines is here from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Mr. Dom is here locally here in Washington. We've got Jared Griffith is here from Sealy Lake. Jared, I'm going to be in Sealy Lake the first week of February. Let's make sure we bump into each other while I'm in town. That would be amazing. We got Jeremiah and Terry. Welcome, welcome. We got Ryan Cook is here. Grant Gray. Newcastle. We got California. We got all kinds of people dropping in right now. You guys, this is the perfect time to get in here and share the show out. The normal Woody's Racing Share and Win contest. The Woody's hoodie and the Idaho and potatoes are up for grabs. Follow Woody's Racing on Instagram and on Facebook. They would be grateful for that. Follow them through the whole snowcross season that's coming up and get in to win. Make sure you give their page a like. Let's go ahead and drop down the Woody's page and let's talk a little bit about this, guys. Is 2020, December 31st, next Thursday, is the absolute. I'm going to turn the music off because this is too important to mess this up, guys. Like, we're going to listen. This is really important for everybody who's watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching as a replay. You have from today, Sunday, all the way through Thursday, the 31st of December, to place your final orders for Live Large merchandise. You can get hats, you can get Live Large shirts, there's Canadian shirts, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. We've got stickers for your trailer, we've got stickers for your sled decks. What else we got? We got hoodies now. I've got this same logo on a beanie now as well. Get on there. Every single item that you buy on the Live Large website is going to be eligible for one of 3 epic prizes. And I'm no joke, folks. This is epic. We've got Brett Rasmussen's Ride Rasmussen Skill Day is up for grabs. We're going to give away one of those. And we're also going to give away a level 1 avalanche class with Matt Enns in Mountain Skills out in Colorado. And number 3, we're giving away another level 1, Erie level 1 class from the Mountain Riding Lab out of Jackson, Wyoming. So we've got three big epic prizes. So get in there, visit the website this week. The order doesn't have to have already shipped. Just get in there and place your order before the end of the year. Midnight, the 31st of December, New Year's Eve is the last opportunity to get in on those 3 epic prizes, and then we're done for the season. That's all the prizes we're going to give away in this season before we get this out. So get in there, get that merchandise, get it on order, and we'll get it in there. And by the way, if you didn't already know this, all of that merchandise, the profits go to AIRI, which is the American Institute for Avalanche Research and Education, to the Live Large University Scholarship Program, which is investing in the motorized backcountry avalanche education community. People who are getting out to be professional educators, other folks who are recreationalists but inspiring their local communities. A lot of great things going on there. So let me go ahead and drop the final here down, and we're going to bring you Nate and Julia in 3, 2, and 1. We have Julia and Nate. How are you guys tonight?
Great.
Awesome. How are you, John?
Very good. Welcome, welcome. So this is like a little bit of a family reunion, right? Because we've gotten to know each other through the local snowmobile club. You guys joined up not too long ago, and you've been out on a couple of rides with me already here locally in the state of Washington. And I'm so excited to have you guys on the show and agree to come on with me.
Thanks. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, very, very welcome. So, first thing I want to do is just have Julia and Nate, kind of in that order. We'll have you guys just do a little bit of kind of a background of who you are, kind of where you grew up, what your day job is, family status, all that kind of stuff, whatever you're comfortable sharing. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, Julia. Who the heck is Julia?
Well, I am a huge snow sports enthusiast. I actually grew up in upstate New York.
Yep.
Learned to ski when I was 3 years old, switched
Okay.
to snowboarding sometime in middle school. So I've been doing snowboarding for almost 30 years. That makes me feel kind of old. But I moved to Washington about 16 years ago. I'm
Oh, nice.
actually I'm a middle school science teacher. So
Very cool.
all those school breaks when everybody's off, that's when I'm off. And I love snow days, but during the pandemic, I'm a little upset that
I know,
we're not
right?
really going to get snow days teaching online.
Snow days just mean that there's no distraction for the kids, that they are actually going to pay attention, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, Julia, you've become a professional, video podcaster because as a teacher now, working for public schools, right? You kind of
Maybe
have
if
to do
I
this
had
every
a big
day.
team working behind me to help me, but no, we're just doing the best we can for the kids. I mean, at least we get to see them, some of them that turn their cameras on, but
Very
we're
cool.
doing the best we can, and we'll make up for it in the future. So
Very
most
cool.
of them are doing really great. So
Very cool. And Nate, before we jump over to you, I just want to remind everybody watching what tonight's episode is all about. It's really all about the two of you, the backcountry tourers, the snowboarders, backcountry snowboarders who've gotten into snowmobiling and embracing snowmobiling as a way to get out in the backcountry and to do it. And we're going to have kind of a really exciting, interesting conversation of, this kind of the differences and the similarities to, why do people go out and tour the backcountry, whether it be on a snowmobile or on skis or on a snowboard or snowshoes. We're going to find there's a ton of similarities between all of these communities. And I definitely am seeing, as it says in the show notes, a giant transition of growth in the snowmobile community of traditionally non-motorized users using snowmobiles to access the backcountry. Now that COVID has happened, ski resorts are on lockdown, kind of. They're very limited where they're at. And you guys are shaking your head because you know exactly that's why we're here today to talk about it. So I really encourage folks to watch tonight and to share this out because it's going to be a great message for all communities, backcountry snow communities overall. So great. Thank you guys for sharing this out. So Nate, who the heck is Nate? Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
See, I worked in the grocery industry for years. Been snowboarding since 1989. So before snowboarding, a lot of people were even like, "What is that?" Back
Yeah.
then. And kind of followed the evolution in snowboarding. Rode in the ski areas for about 5 years till I started venturing out into the backcountry with a few friends, and we did the snowshoe thing for a little while, and then split boards became a thing. And now we're just continuing, basically following the evolution on getting deeper into the backcountry with snowmobiles. So it's kind of it's been a fun ride.
No, that's awesome. So I'm really excited again to have met you guys. You joined the local snowmobile club, and I guess that's my first question is, how did you even come across our snowmobile club? What drove the desire to? Because there's a lot of people that I know who do backcountry skiing and snowboarding, and they've bought snowmobiles. But there's very few of them that I'm finding that are really actively engaging with snowmobile clubs. So what was the item that crossed your mind that got you interested in looking to a snowmobile club as an opportunity to, maybe learn the ropes a little bit about using your snowmobile, how to use your snowmobile, how to, maybe learn some skills on it to be able to get deeper into the backcountry?
Yeah. So basically, the reason to get into the club was, we're the biggest amateurs there are when it comes to snowmobiles. Um, you know, Learning to ride them, and that spurs into, you know, being able to get off the trails a little bit and get deeper into the backcountry, and then the maintenance part of things. I mean, you guys have already helped us
learning
out.
to fix
Yeah,
them.
yeah, learning to fix them, and
Yep.
and then of course, meeting cool people, great people like you, John, and just enjoying the community, the backcountry user community. It's
That's
been
awesome.
awesome, and
That's awesome.
so
And so we'll deep dive into that a little bit more again too. We'll kind of circle back on that too. But what I really want to do is kind of talk a little bit now about you guys. I mean, here's the thing: is the folks who watch this show on a regular basis, and there's actually one guest in particular who watches almost every single week. I think he's here tonight. I haven't seen his name pop up yet, but there's somebody named Kyle Franklin out of Truckee, California, who was a professional. Do you guys know that name by chance?
No.
Okay, because
I know where Truckee is.
Yep.
I've been in some
Yep.
great snowstorms there.
Yeah, because he was a professional snowboarder back in the day and became a professional snowboard instructor. So I thought maybe you guys, your names would have crossed paths at some point in some publication somewhere that maybe you'd read or whatever. And he's here watching the show. He's gotten on board in the snowmobiling and gotten really excited about it too. But the thing is regardless of what sport we all do in the backcountry in the snow, it's all about that passion. And to really showcase this passion, I love these stories where, I've actually got a local friend here in Washington State, Tom and Tina Shields up in the Mount Baker area. Tom is the president of the Northwest Glacier Cruiser Club. They, back in the day, had gotten married up on the mountain in the snow. And as I got to know you guys a little bit, that was one of your unique stories as well, too. I'd love to hear a little bit about, let's talk first about how you guys met and then work towards this, getting married on the snow thing. So, Julie, why don't you take it first?
Well, we met actually through a mutual friend. I taught snowboarding for 19 years.
Very
I
cool.
only quit teaching about 5 years ago or so. But
nice.
One of my good friends who I taught with at our local mountain actually knew Nate, and we kind of heard about each other, didn't meet for the longest time, and then just happened to be up at the mountain at the same time. And we met, our mutual friend introduced us on a chairlift. And then as soon as we saw each other snowboard, we're like, I'm in.
Nate looks
mutual love of the sport.
I'm guessing Nate looked over at Julie and says hey, nice bindings. No? Was that your pickup line?
Nice turns.
Nice turns.
Yeah,
nice turns. Nice turns.
Yeah, nice curves. Yeah.
Awesome.
So Nate, great curves.
Oh, there you go. Great curves down the slopes, right? That's awesome. That's awesome. So Nate, is there any part of that story that Julia just told that you would like to either accept or deny?
It's pretty fun. I wasn't even really looking for a relationship at that point, but she's a heck of a snowboarder. I'll tell you what, she's one of the, I'm no pro by any means, but I can make my turns. I've been riding for 30 years, so I know how to turn and stop is what I like to say. And she knows how to turn and stop really well too. So it's very much mutual. Like, all right, she can hang, so it was pretty awesome actually.
Very cool.
And
very cool.
She's a better snowboarder than I am now.
And so it seems fitting that two people who met on the snow on a chairlift get married on the snow. And so who was the one that was kind of like, hey, we should get married on the snow? I feel like my experience has been it's usually the guys that come up with these crazy stupid ideas. But Julia, was it you this time?
No, so he proposed to me in the backcountry of another mountain, and I think that day we were like, "Oh, we're totally getting married in the snow." That's
awesome.
So, yeah,
it was
but it was awesome. We had at least 30-something people hike snowshoe up with us to a great spot, and it was awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then I saw some pictures that you guys have shared. I think I shared it. The two of you guys are probably exchanging your first kiss as a married couple on the snow. I shared that as the teaser, right? And then there's some pictures I've seen also, Julia, of you shredding in your AKA wedding dress, right?
Yeah.
Was it really a dress or was it more like snow pants with a train behind it?
No, it was totally useful stuff. It was white snow pants, white jacket, and then a veil that I made actually from my mom's veil. So that trailing behind me was really fun, although I had to tuck it in when we got into the trees, because we love trees. So.
Very good, very good. And so, Nate, anything about the wedding day that you think we need to make sure the world knows about? Was it did I forgive for the stupid pun, but did anybody get cold feet?
No. It was fun. It was a good time. We had actually one of our really good friends was our officiator. He did a really good job. He knows us well, and we had a really good crew. It was really neat to see so many people come up and just have a good time and exchange our vows. And we actually I made a wood ring for myself, and Julia had a ring. So our ceremony included the rings. So those are still up on the mountain in the snow.
Very cool.
Which we put into, by where we got married and stuff. So
yeah, no, very cool.
It was a beautiful day. It was actually it was late in the spring. It was we got really lucky and it snowed on us even. So
yeah,
it was April 6th.
That's awesome. So let's go back to the day that whose idea between the two of you? Whose idea was it to get snowmobiles to access the backcountry? Was that a Nate idea?
Yeah.
So
I'm the backcountry junkie. So
all right.
Actually, I think it was Julie and I weren't even dating. I think it was the second time or third time that we snowboarded together. I took her out to the backcountry out of some lift access backcountry at Stevens. And,
okay.
We kind of got into a little bit of a wrong spot, got into a cliff band, had to that, and love after
and
first
I'm
cliff band.
Still with him.
And in spite of that, you stuck it out, huh, Julia? Awesome. And so tell me,
always an adventure.
Yeah, so tell me, Nate, about that day that you kind of thought, like, I mean, did you just stumble across some snowmobiles? Had you already been thinking about, like, accessing the backcountry and started looking for snowmobiles actively? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so a friend that I rode with backcountry snowboarding here years ago, he moved to Montana.
Yeah.
And I went out and started visiting him out there, and he got into the snowmobile community out there and snowboarding and stuff. And that's a different world out there than what's, like our local mountains around here. It's like Alaska stuff out there. I'm sure a lot of you guys know. So we went out and snowmobiled in like 15, 20 miles into a hunter's fisher's cabin out in the middle of the Pentlers, and I can't remember which range it was, the Bitterroots.
Okay.
And stayed out there for 2 nights and snowboarded and snowmobiled, and it was amazing. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. So it took a long time to get there, but
so you got you got an invitation. Somebody gave you a taste of it, and you thought, like, that doesn't seem like a horrible idea. And
it wasn't.
And then here locally, what was your thought process on trying to find snowmobiles? Like, what were the things you were thinking of and considering? Like, maybe your top 3 priorities when you were looking for snowmobiles to use for backcountry use.
Like I said, we're big time amateurs, so didn't know a lot about snowmobiles.
Yeah.
Tried to do as much research as possible, but our budget was limited.
Yep.
So we ended up getting a couple of older sleds and got a package deal from a guy in Cleveland with a trailer and 2 sleds. So that's what got us started there.
Okay. So you just found a hot deal was kind of the main thing, but were you concerned like right off the bat about things like track lengths, engine sizes, anything like that to make sure you're there, or just more access and getting something that's within the budget?
Within the budget for access, yeah, and didn't want to get something super old, but we couldn't afford brand new by any means.
Yeah.
Also, it wouldn't have done us any justice to get brand new at our skill level. So.
Yep. No, it's absolutely. And so, the thing that we've talked about a little bit too is the idea that, for folks who are getting into this for the first time, a lot of it is very much budget driven. And, I've got multiple other friends who've done the same thing. A lot of folks know that I'm currently the vice president of the Northwest Avalanche Center here locally. And, there's folks who are in the Avalanche Center who first got into snowmobiling, and it was kind of the same thing. They just got this bundle package, like, oh, somebody's got a trailer and a couple sleds they're selling cheap, for $3,000-4,000 or whatever it would be. And it just kind of worked out, and they got into it. And then over time, as their needs progressed, so did their budgets and their skills as well too. And it's kind of this ongoing journey folks are in. But one thing that wasn't really obvious was the idea of like joining a snowmobile club. Where you guys my memory tells me, but tell me if I'm wrong, you guys followed the snowmobile club Facebook page for a while before you joined. Is that accurate, or did you guys just come in and join right away? Remind me.
Well, I was looking at the Washington State Snowmobile Club page.
Yep.
And kind of was just probing different clubs and looking and just seeing what people were saying. And then, of course, I ran across the Cascade Skip Drifters, and I was like, well, that's interesting. So I jumped on the page and, I did follow it for probably a week or two. And I was like, hey, I told Julia, I said, hey, they got a beginner ride coming up this weekend. The snow was junk. Yeah. So we're like, well, let's just go check it out and, see what it's all about. So and we went from there.
and that's where you guys stumbled across us, and we met for the first time was at our ride. So for those who don't know, our Cascade Drift Skipper Snowmobile Club, I'm actually the local ride coordinator for our club, and we've got on the calendar every single week a ride for new members, existing members, anybody who wants to join. And these first few rides, we did a lot of focus on things like sled setup and handlebar positions. We did a second ride where it was more focused on avalanche training. You guys attended both of those first two rides, didn't you, if I remember right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so we did a lot of avalanche training stuff too. And I think that's something I'd like to dive into a little bit deeper too. Is why don't you guys first share your perspective on avalanche education? That what you guys have kind of grown up in the snowboard industry. Learning, like how long ago did you get things like a level 1 avalanche class or an awareness class or companion rescue, or what levels of training have you guys both gone through at this point?
Go ahead, Julie.
Well, yeah, Nate has a lot more experience than I do because I actually didn't really get into anything backcountry until I met him. So that was 11 years ago. But a lot of my education actually before that was really coming through like book learning because I grew up on the East Coast. We really don't in upstate New York. We don't really.
You're not learning about avalanche safety there usually.
We have to make their snow there, so like man-made snow. So we don't really worry about avalanches.
Yeah.
So a lot of my learning once I came to Washington State was a lot of book learning because I was strictly just in the area and I was still teaching snowboarding, and so everything was in the area. I was just learning, exploring what could be lift accessed here.
Yeah.
And then just a lot of book learning. And when I met him, that was when I kind of upped my game, I guess, in the backcountry. And we did some classes. They weren't, I did some ones that weren't a full ARI. But by the time we were doing that, a lot of my education really was coming kind of secondhand through Nate. I mean, he was a great teacher about almost everything. And then also being part of a ski school, there's a lot of super educated people on all sorts of things, including instructors who were teaching, technical skills to, younger teenagers and things. And, eventually I became one of those after years and years being there too, teaching them like, how to use beacons and how to, do certain snow science, in pits and very basic kinds of things. So
yeah.
It was kind of a progression of education. But, that's the main reason why I like being a part of the club because, just learning from people who, know snowmobiles and know all of that and having that family and that network to be able to just learn more because we are super novice. We just started last year and last year was, a lot of hard, that school of hard knocks, right? Like learning how to dig a snowmobile out when you get very, very, very stuck because you have no idea how to not get stuck.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. One of our next upcoming classes that we do our club rides, we'll have to make sure we do I call it stuck sucks, right? And so we'll call it how to get unstuck easily. And it's amazing to think about it. And
I won't be there.
Yeah, it's something at this point that I take completely for granted. That knowing how to get your snowmobile unstuck, and in many cases through the use of your snowmobile getting it unstuck. When a snowmobile gets stuck, using your snowmobile to get itself unstuck. In many cases, you can do that. I bet 90% of the time. But half the battle, and that's maybe another episode for another day. But half the battle is knowing how to get stuck in a way that's not so completely buried. A lot of it, and just a quick tip is like a lot of it is just knowing when to say when, right? A lot of people just, they just pin it until they hit the running boards and the track's just spinning free, right? And at the point you're already done moving, the sooner you stop, the better, because you can quick pack stuff around, you can kind of give it a ski pull. But yeah, we'll get you guys on board with figuring out how to get your machines unstuck, and you'll figure out pretty quickly it's actually way easier than you think once you know the right technique. So
yeah, don't let us miss that one, please.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, and it's something that as an avid snowmobiler I just take for granted nowadays. Is just it's a very common thing that I've taught people how to do, and even people who are kind of beginner intermediate sledders come into the club and they still don't have those skills either. So it doesn't mean that just because you're new to snowmobiling, a lot of people who snowmobiled for years. Sometimes, believe it or not, it's actually harder to teach somebody who has bad habits than it is to teach somebody who has no habits. And I think Julia is a
Oh,
teacher.
being a teacher
Oh
and
yeah,
being a
yeah,
snowboard instructor for a long time, that's exactly true in every single sport.
yep,
So, and that's part of it is we just, we want to learn and we want to learn well and,
yeah,
not only to just save ourselves, but just, to be safer and to have it be more fun and,
yep, absolutely. Yep. And so, how about Nate for avalanche education and training for you and kind of thing? And this is something that you and I kind of have like kind of construct a personal connection on too, is this idea of avalanche safety and education with all the things I'm involved in. You and I have been chatting. You even gave me a few tips on my new beacon that I have that I just got this year for the first time. And so I'm appreciative because it's a two-way street, right? Like I'm eager to learn anything I can learn, and
Yeah.
at the same time eager to teach whatever I can teach, right? And so I think it's that's a quick connection that I know I made with you guys both, is your ability to kind of help show me a few things that I didn't already have some experience with on a new piece of equipment that I had that you guys have had for a little longer than I have. So, but yeah, Nate, go ahead and
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your background and your education for avalanche education and why that's been important to you up to this point. So,
Yeah. So basically, starting in the School of Hard Knocks, just learning. I mean, we used to hike in the backcountry with no bags. We didn't have
yeah,
any beacons. We didn't have anything, back, and that was, now that I think about it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what were we thinking?
yeah, it's
It's
like,
like,
how
are
did
you
we survive
serious?
all these years, right?
Oh yeah.
Thank
I
goodness
remember
that was
one,
before me.
yeah, I
I
remember one
never
time
had I never had to have that scary of a time.
we got yelled at by an NWAC observer one time. We're like, what are you guys doing up here? And we're like, like, get out of here, So, and rightfully so, they should have said that to us.
Yeah,
It's because we're endangering other people then when that happens too.
yep,
So just learning, through some of those things, and then I spent a lot of time in Canada working with the Canadian guides up there, a lot of the ski guides and stuff up there, and then worked with the ski patrol down here too,
yeah,
doing various different things. And so, every day that Julie and I go out, every single day, we do an avalanche transceiver search every single day.
yep.
And that's just to keep our skills up. It's something that, it can kind of wear down after a while. If, it's one of those things you got to be on top of and stay on top of.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're constantly practicing.
Well, in something
Different scenarios too.
yeah, and something you guys observed in both of my club rides as well as in this show is that, the more of a routine we can build, like literally I asked Julia, spell Julia for me, right? Like as stupid as that sounds, I know through experience that if I accidentally, even though I know how to spell Julia, if I misspell your name, it's there permanently at the bottom of your head forever, right? And until this video ever gets deleted or dies, it's going to be out there misspelled. And so to prevent issues and mistakes, I go through some very remedial basic things before every show. Things like lighting, things like making sure everybody has headphones, and there's a lot of things that we do just through repetition. Even though I've done 155 episodes now, I still find very remedial checklists that I go through every single show and episode. And the snowmobiling and the skiing is no different, right? It's like if you get in the snow park and you go through the routine of turning your beacon on and doing a check with your partner and making sure it's sending and transceiving, and you do a radio check and you talk about the trail etiquette, it's things that probably most of the people I ride with on a regular basis all know those things. And that's kind of the point, is we're saying them out loud. We're going through that repetition so that we don't miss a no-brainer easy opportunity, because there's nothing more horrible than coming down at the mountain at the end of the day and going to shut your beacon off and realizing you never turned it on. Like,
Yeah.
I've done it. Have you guys?
We've seen that before.
Yeah.
I haven't done it, but I've seen it.
Yeah.
And the same thing, it's the muscle memory thing,
Yep.
It's just, like I said, the repetition, like military training, it's just, you don't even think about it after a while,
Yeah.
even though you do.
Yep.
You still have that checklist, but it's, it's something it's important to do every time.
Yep. Nope. Exactly. And so I'm just looking through our notes here to see what else we talked about. We talked about backcountry touring. And so, joining the club, getting the information, the one percenters. There's a note that we haven't talked about yet. Do you want to let me tee this up to you? And it's interesting, and I think this is really good for the snowmobile community to hear and the backcountry ski community here, because it literally goes both ways. We were swapped before we got on the show here. We were swapping stories, and I've heard of stories and I've personally witnessed it as well, where there's times as a snowmobiler we're riding down the trail, and in many cases we most people will slow down and wave and be friendly to this cross-country skiers or the snowshoers that are going by. But every once in a while, you'll get somebody who's just an ornery bugger, and they'll swing their ski pole at you and try to take you out as a snowmobiler, and you're like, what the hell just happened, right? Like you got these I call them angry elves, like it's like the movie Elf, right? Like he's an angry elf, right? Like but then you guys were sharing stories the opposite way too, and sadly I've also witnessed the same thing, right? And so Nate, why don't you or Julia, whoever wants to go first, share an experience you've had of these, we'll call them the one percenters, which are maybe these bad eggs in any given sport that we have, and what kind of maybe builds a negative reputation for the sport on the other side of the fence, whether it be motorized or non-motorized, right?
Yeah, so basically, there was a story just the other day. Somebody asked about in the backcountry touring community about is it worth going to the snow parks where the snowmobiles are to go and tour and ski? And most of the people were like, oh, it's great, no problem, there's a lot of good terrain out there and stuff, and for the most part people are cool. And then one of the people piped up and said, it's okay, but some guys sometimes every now and then like just that 1%, they'll roll up on them real hot, and then as they get past them, just gun it, just kind of being rude. It's like you say, if these skiers are doing this, it's like, come on, you guys, just everybody needs to kind of, like I say, bridge the gap and get along. And nobody owns the property, we all do. We should all share it equally.
Well, I think that brings us to the idea, and this is something I really want to kind of deep dive into, and I'm just going to ask a really simple question. And Julie, I'm going to direct it to you, and then I'm going to turn and follow up with Nate afterwards, is, why do you go out in the backcountry? Like, why? Whether, it doesn't matter what it is, right? If you're on ski, like for you, you're snowboarder mostly, right? Is what you're doing. You're doing snowmobiling a little bit too. But why is it that you go out in the backcountry? Like, just, it's a very simple question that has, I'm sure, a very deep, meaningful answer, as it does for all of us.
You know what? I don't know how meaningful it is to anyone except for me, but the reason I go in the backcountry is to spend time with Nate, because that's where he wants to be. Although this year it's a different reason, because this is the first year in my whole life since I was 3 that I don't have a season's pass because of COVID. Wow. I just didn't find that it was going to be, if I can't ride with my friends, then why would I go to the mountain?
Well, let's talk about
Lyft?
Let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that's a piece of this that I want to make sure everybody's aware of. And if you don't ski or snowboard, you maybe haven't even heard this. But tell us about the I guess the issue around why you wouldn't buy a season's pass this year for the first time in your whole life, right? So
yeah, and I've always so when I was really little, when I started to ski, my mom was actually part of the ski patrol of the mountain in New York where we skied. So I was like a part of the family of that mountain for my whole childhood. And then I started teaching snowboarding, so I was always part of the employee family and all of that. And so it's been my whole life that I've always at least had a season's pass. And even when I stopped teaching, I still had a season's pass. I go up, I see all of my family, all those friends, those people, that you see every time you go, and all these great times. But this year, our local mountain that we always go to, they're doing reservations and they're limiting, people. And, it's not, you're wearing masks and you're outside and all of that, but it was going to make it a lot more stressful and not fun. To kind of just be able to pop up there for half a day and, play with the dog in the snow and go take some runs and go home. So, this year it was all backcountry.
Yeah. And part of what you said without saying it is the fact that we all go out there to kind of just kick back, low stress, hang out with our community, our friends. And it's like, it's that stress thing, right? Like if now you take, it's something as simple as grocery shopping, right? Like you go down to the grocery store and it was like, oh, I'll just pop down there and grab what I need. Yeah. And now you're like, oh, do I have my mask? Oh my gosh, is the person in front of me like 6 feet apart? And like things that are just basic routine that just normally have never been an issue now have become like this extra level of stress that it's just like, oh my gosh, do I really have to deal with that today? And something that you love so much to now have to deal with all of that.
And something that we rely on so much, especially this year, that's been really extra stressful to, I need to be in the snow. I need that beauty. Release. I need that, release. I need that love of the mountains. And but I don't want to, I don't want to mess with have to mask up and have to, stand in lines and all of that. I know I won't be able to deal with it. So
yeah. How about you, Nate? What's your why? Like, why are you going into the backcountry? What is it that motivates you? Because I'm gonna guess it's probably not terribly that much different than the reason I, as a snowmobiler, goes out there.
Powder.
Pretty
And
simple,
that's
right?
pretty much it. Yeah, I've been a powder junkie for a long time. I haven't had a season's pass. As Julie, I've been a season's pass holder my whole life.
Yeah.
I haven't had one in 3 years now, and probably the last 7 or 8 years of having a pass, I didn't really ride in the ski area at all. I used the lifts to access backcountry
Yeah.
on top of all the other stuff that I was already doing outside of the ski area. So it wasn't really worth it to me to spend the money for a pass if I wasn't really using it. I'd make maybe 2 or 3 chairlift rides a day, just for different runs and stuff like that. But yeah, powder. I want to ride powder, and I enjoy the snow too, as much as Julia and everybody else. And I like just being in it and being immersed in the mountains, and
Yeah.
just it makes me feel whole, and
Yeah.
enjoying the beauty of it.
Yeah, like literally today was probably one of the smallest groups I've ridden with. It was just myself and Edith, and then one other couple we went out there with today too, and it was just the four of us. And there was multiple times where we were just sitting around visiting, right? Like we were all on our snowmobiles, separated, because if you're on a snowmobile, you're at least 6 feet away from each other because those suckers are like 12 feet long, right? And so, we're all sitting around just visiting and chatting, and it's like, at one point it just dawned on us like, oh yeah, that's right, when we leave here we got to go back to the real world, right? And it's just it just, when you're out there, it feels so normal, right? Like it's part of your routine. You're out there with other people, you're seeing their faces probably because they're not masked up when you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and you're all spread out and separated apart. We're all wearing helmets or whatever too, and so we're up there, and and you guys saw us firsthand too. Like what happens is that camaraderie is like, if you're up there and you don't have other people you can rely on, like you guys had a little bit of a mechanical issue up there, one of the rides that we had, right? Do we want to chat about that a little bit? Like I remember hearing on the radio, it's like, yeah, John, can you come up and check this out? We got a sled problem up here. And I rolled up and there's Julia behind her helmet with a big sad face, going on.
Yeah, I broke it. But that's part of the perils of, we can just afford older sleds. So
Yeah.
we figured out it was just old, and I was learning from you and from other people. I was trying to do some new skills that I hadn't done, and I pushed it a little far and broke it.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And it's I think it was just, because of the age of it, there was probably an issue with it already at that point. I don't think there was anything that you did to it. And other than that triple backflip at one time, you might have
I know.
You might have landed it a little bit hard.
Nail it. That was probably it.
Yeah, you tail landed it a little too hard probably. So but yeah, so broken chain case locked you down dead, and so between all of us that were up there, we had tools, we had the knowledge of how things were built, and got you back going again. And then had you guys, Nate, you ended up, yeah, you ended up towing her down the hill too. But it's just that camaraderie of like the community up there and everybody helping each other. And again, at the end of the day, we're all up there for basically the same reasons. It's for the beauty, the serenity, the peace, the sense of community, the adrenaline rush. Whether you're swooshing down through the trees on your snowboard, or if you're climbing a big hill on your snowmobile, at the end of the day, we're all up there for generally the same reasons. And this idea of it being a big part of the non-motorized community is looking at this as a thing. Like, tell us a little bit about like your circle of friends in that non-motorized world. Are they now asking you about snowmobiling and what you think of it and what your experience has been? Like, are you guys becoming like little mini transition ambassadors almost?
We kind of keep the group small for the backcountry stuff. So Julie and I have basically kind of done our thing, up to this point. And now that we're working, riding with you guys and stuff, it'll definitely grow. But it's kind of like, for us, it's kind of been like fishing spots. We really don't like to share, because, we'll tell our friends where we're going just for safety reasons. Hey, if we don't get a hold of you by 6 tonight, you might want to check in with us or whatever. But we've expanded the group actually a little bit more this year and stuff. For the motorized stuff, people are fairly excited to come out with us. Julie's got to work during the week, so I can take some weekdays off and stuff. And I've kind of put some feelers out for people, and it's been very receptive. People are very, yeah, let's go, let's do that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
It's for backcountry snowboarding and skiing. It's not that we're going to be snowmobilers. We're using it as a commuter vehicle to
Yeah.
get 10, 20 miles out. We can't do 20 miles in a day on snowboards. There's just no way. We'd
Yeah.
be so exhausted. We would do a tour. We have one tour that we would do is 12 miles round trip. And you're leaving out in the dark and coming back in the dark.
Yeah.
By the time you get halfway there, you've drank half your water, eaten more than half your food. You're already exhausted, and you could have taken a snowmobile and been in there in 10 minutes compared to 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
So
Nope,
that's been the
exactly.
big motivation.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so, getting involved in it and, joining the club, and it's just, I think it's going to continue to be a very fast growing part of our industry. And I was sharing with you guys privately in different conversations that, the snowmobile industry as a whole has been an industry that, for the last several decades has been very much a declining sport, right? And then, there's little peaks and valleys based on snow years and different things that go on, and it's up one year slightly and then down again the next year and stuff too. But generally speaking, it's an industry that's looked at as not a thriving industry. And, with the idea of, non-motorized users using snowmobiles to access backcountry, and now accelerated by COVID, I can tell you, being on the board of directors for the Northwest Avalanche Center, it's a very much a point of discussion of how is the backcountry going to support all of these users in these snow parks, and more so in the non-motorized world where people are all going to have to go to the same place to be able to hike in or walk in, where at least with the snowmobile part of it, you can spread yourselves out around the state quite a bit, and there's different snow parks here, and then it's, different things there too. It's going to be an issue everywhere at some point in time, but the etiquette and the idea of how do we make sure that, the non-motorized folks understand that to go to a motorized snow park, that they need to have the right snow park pass. Like here in Washington State, I can go to the same snow park, and if I have a motorized or a non-motorized, I'm allowed to park in this parking lot versus that parking lot versus this parking lot. And it can get pretty complex if you don't know what's going on. And I think everybody just kind of looking out for everybody and helping each other along the way is only going to just continue to make everybody, have a better experience in the backcountry. So.
Yeah, I'd say what you're talking about, like the growth and stuff. This year, definitely for the backcountry groups, like skiers and snowmobiles and everybody, there's way more participation this year, and it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
After this year, when people experience it, either one of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to continue to grow, or we're all going to get some really good deals on some gear next year when people sell off. It's at least for the snowboarders, because I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of talk on like the Splitboarders of Washington group, beginners, people that haven't ridden in the backcountry at all and haven't even ridden in a ski resort, for even some of them, like, hey, let us know, what kind of gear do I need? It's like, oh, wait a minute. So that's the one thing, is that the participation level in the backcountry is, I can't give you a percentage yet. At the end of the year, I could probably tell you what we've seen compared to years past, but so far, what I've seen, it's been a lot.
Yeah, and one of our fellow club members, and somebody who's viewing right now, is Rich Barnett. I actually ran into him up on the mountain today, so shout out to Rich. But Rich made a comment here. He says today there were probably 300 to 400 cars at the Gold Creek area as we were going by, like the Hayek area. Like there's a Gold Creek snow park that we access the Gold Creek area. It's like off the Hayek exit, and there's like a couple of non-motorized snow parks that you have to pass to get to the end of the road where the motorized park is. And it's gotten to the point where, as a motorized user, I avoid that snow park like the plague, because there's so many people up there who are not even part of either community, but are just like snow gawkers, right? They're going up there with their kids to slide down a hill, and they don't have snow park passes. They have no idea how to park. They're up there where they shouldn't be. And it's just turned into this giant mob. And if I go up through there with a trailer, I'm almost certain to come head to head with somebody and not be able to get past them, right? And so they're going to have to figure out how to back in or back up 400 cars and then back in. And so it's just got to be an area we completely avoid. And that's just the sign of the times of what's happening, is there's more and more people trying to, quote unquote, get away from the city to get out into what we all love. And it's,
Yeah, and I can tell you, just being an avid hiker too, this summer, and I think it was partly just because in our area, the greater Seattle metropolitan area, and there's a lot of people that travel on their vacations. And then when nobody could travel, a lot of people were like, I'm going to the mountains. And, about halfway through the summer, I just stopped hiking, because even even on weekdays when I left early, went to a not busy hike, because I know which ones are not busy, it was still packed.
Yeah.
And so, and all those people on those same groups, that I'm on, they're all talking about snowshoeing right now. And, oh, where can I go? Where can I go? And so, Gold Creek comes up like every other day. Oh, go to Gold Creek. It's beautiful. And I'm like, oh, So, I mean, just the usage of our public lands, which is amazing. And normally I'd be like, yeah, it's great. Like, let's, support those areas.
Yeah.
But just because I feel like for a lot of people in a very populated area, there's nowhere else for them to go except into all of these, wild areas. It's just so much more crowded this year. So I'm curious to see when this stuff is over and people can start world traveling again, whether that's going to kind of drop down or whether they're going to realize what we all know already, which is how beautiful and how amazing our mountains are, and whether they're going to keep going and that's going to be the new trend, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's all of us who are avid backcountry users. I personally take it as a little bit of an obligation to help educate those who are out there, you could tell, who are a little bit floundering, right? It's like, hey, I notice you can't quite figure out how to park your vehicle over there. Let me tell you the way this is supposed to work here, right? Because someone's parked in backwards or something like that. And then, literally this happened yesterday as I went with a group of riders here locally, and we went up into the Salmon Lasac area here in Washington State. And as backcountry skiers, I don't know if you guys have been into that Fish Lake area back there.
We'll be there Wednesday.
Way back. And so if you're familiar with the area, like it's probably a 10-mile plus ride of groomed trail to get back into that campground area and stuff in there where, they quit grooming. We got to the end of the groomed trail, and at like 9:30 in the morning, we came across a Jeep Rubicon with two guys stuck up to the axles and had been there since yesterday. They were stuck up there. They were over. And so multiple things are happening. You got people trying to get out in the backcountry who have no experience, no knowledge. And, you could sit there and look at it as like, oh, they're just horrible people. They're breaking the law. All those things are true, right? They're breaking the law. They shouldn't be out there. They don't know what they're doing. But you also got to look at it as like, man, it's got to start somewhere, right? And like, am I going to be a snowmobiler who's going to be the person who's going to be like, screw you guys, good luck getting out of here? Or am I going to be the one who helps get them turned around and get them out safely? And then they become advocates for how amazing the snowmobile community is, right? That's the difference between how you approach these things. And literally, if our group hadn't come across those two guys, they probably would still be up there, right? Very sad to think that way, but they probably would still be up there. And whether they would survive, whether they would try to hike out, they were literally in jeans and tennis shoes, right? Like they didn't have shovels. They were literally trying to like scrape snow away with like a rake, right? It's really sad to see what we came across. But the other thing is even their Jeep, they didn't even know how to operate their Jeep fully. They had a beautiful Jeep Rubicon that had low differential locks and the whole works. They didn't even have it set up that way. Like they just had it in four-wheel high, and they were trying to move around, and their wheels were spinning one way and the other way. And as soon as we got them turned around, let some air out of their tires and put their lockers on, they crawled right out of there and they got out,
Yeah.
So, but again, it's, we can take the high road or the low road in every situation in life. And I think that's the whole point of this episode is, let's all take collectively the high road and figure out how to kind of embrace each other's communities and understand what each community is out there for. It's a lot of very similar things. And then what are the uniquenesses, right? It's like the idea of like getting out in the quiet backcountry versus getting out on an adrenaline rush, wheeling your snowmobile around. Two different reasons, but at the same time, we're kind of still out there for the same reason, but not, right? My wife and I today, when our thing, some of our most fun times of the event today of our ride with four was when the machines were shut off and we were all just sitting around having a conversation, and it was quiet, out of the wind, and just enjoying the backcountry, right? And it was just beautiful and quiet and serene, But then 10 minutes later, I love going over there and doing a good old wheelie.
Yeah, we took naps the other day in the sun up on a ridge. It was great.
Yeah.
I think I saw that video. You guys were playing it. I was heckling you a little bit. I said that looks like a great place to snowmobile.
Yeah.
I was heckling you, by the way.
Yeah.
You never.
Awesome. All right, so I think we've gone through all of my notes that I can think of. Is there anything you guys that we haven't touched on yet that we need to still touch on before we wrap this up tonight?
I just really like to touch one more time on the avalanche safety stuff,
Sure.
And make sure that people a question came up in one of the group rides a couple of weeks ago. Somebody asked, even though if we're on the trails, should we have avalanche gear with us? Um, and it's been a gray area. Well, not even a gray area for me, but for a lot of the skiers and snowboarders, this term came up probably about 5 or 7 years ago, side country. So people that would be in the ski resort be riding, and then like the stuff just outside the boundaries they're calling side country. Well, to me that's a really dangerous term to use, and I wish they would drop it, because to me there's controlled areas like ski resort, and then there's backcountry. It's black and white, so for the the people that are sledding and stuff, I have a buddy that's just getting back into it, and I told him, I'm not going to ride with you. You need to get your avalanche gear at least. I'll help you learn, but get a transceiver, get a shuttle, get a probe, and make sure that you learn how to use it. It's super, super important. I've been the idiot in the past, and I've been really close to some incidences that I shouldn't have gotten myself into. And thank God I learned. I didn't get killed, and I learned from my lessons, and I would hope that I can be the person that tells people, don't be me, when it comes down to stuff like that. Don't get yourself in a situation like that, and make sure that you're prepared if something unfortunately does happen. It breaks my heart every time I hear a death in an avalanche. It just kills me.
Yep. Nope. 100%. I'm aligned 100%, and I see it over and over again. And that's one of the things about getting involved in a club too. At least here locally in Washington, is our club. It's a non-negotiable that if you're going to come on any kind of a club ride with club members, you're going to have avalanche safety gear. Like that's bare minimum beacon, shovel, probe, and a basic understanding of how to use them. Right. And if you don't have any of those things, let us know. We can at least for 1 or 2 rides maybe loan you some. A lot of us have extra, and we will show you how to use it enough to get you by, but that only flies for a couple of rides before the expectation is that you will get the stuff and you will learn how to use it. And we're going to teach you right here, right now, if you don't know how to use it, right? And so those are the things that you guys have already witnessed in a few of our club rides that we've had. They're just non-negotiables, right? And I've actually had new people similar to you guys come onto our page, see what's going on. They're all excited to come join the rides, and I'm asking them these questions like, oh, do you have beacon, shovel, probe? And they're like, I don't yet. Let me get those and I'll come back to you. Like most of them, they come back and we hear from them. Very rarely do you have somebody who's like, okay, yeah, I'm not ready to get that stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, well, be safe. It's like it kills me inside to let somebody go out there not knowing, but I can't also then have them with me knowing that they're not prepared, that they're not, it's a will versus, is it, or is it because they can't or because they won't? I guess it's can't versus won't, right, is the difference. And in most places, it's not that they can't. It's in some cases they won't, right? In some, is where it's at. And the people who won't, like I just am at the point where I don't have any time for them anymore, right? It's the can't part I can solve. Like literally, I've helped. A few years back, there was people who watched the show, and the show is an advocate for this. Is there was a young family getting into snowmobiling here in the Pacific Northwest, and they, for their family of 4 with some little kids without a lot of money, were struggling to figure out how they were going to get avalanche beacons for the whole family to come out on our club rides with us. And I put a Facebook post out there, and we got them 4 beacons donated and shipped off to them, and we got them set up with beacons. And that family now has continued on in our snowmobile club. They've bought their, as their jobs have gotten better, their situations gotten better, they bought newer snowmobiles, they bought an avalanche safety gear, and they're now big advocates for everything that we do. So
awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go to the snow to learn how to use it. We were at the dog park the other day. I brought a bunch of little flags. I was testing some different features of that transceiver. You can go to a dog park while you're walking your dog, put a transceiver out, and go search for it.
Yeah. Do you have to?
If you have 2 of them.
Do you have to bury it in a pile of dog crap? That's what I want to
know.
No.
Actually, we were very smart. We put it up on a chair in a box, so no dogs would,
pick up and think it's a chew toy.
Yeah.
If anybody out there needs help learning, please, I'll be more than happy to help. It's, we can get together. I would love to.
And on that note, on that note, I just wanted to say, I'm really appreciative of you, Jon, and the club too, for just being so willing to welcome in new people and to teach and to answer questions. Because one of the biggest things about getting into anything kind of new is sometimes, you don't even know what questions to ask. And then sometimes you feel kind of stupid, being an educator, our biggest thing is like, ask me questions. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we want to do, is we want to help you out. But, we don't, you don't always know what questions people have, but just
Yeah.
having people that are willing to talk about things and bring things up that maybe we hadn't thought about, it has to be a two-way communication streak.
Yep.
And, when it's not happening, that's when those kind of that 1% comes out and that kind of bad blood comes out,
Yeah.
so it's part of the community feel and that family feel in the mountains to be willing to help other people, whether it's just a quick tip or whether it's a helping dig out something or parking or, helping them get up if, there something fell or whatever. But,
Yep.
that's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, and you just, as you were talking through all of that and, engaging in the backcountry community, like literally here's another scenario that happened just today as we were heading off the mountain into the snow park. It's like when you're up on your snowmobile, more than a mile or two out, it's unlikely you're going to come across any other user groups, right? But at the point you get within that last mile of the snow park, we came across skiers and snowboarders and snowshoers, and as we got even closer within a few hundred yards of the snow park, we now were running into kids sliding and stuff too. And the snowmobile trail runs right through an area that gets used really popular for people who are just up there with the kids playing around and sliding, right? And as I was leading the group around there, out of the corner of my eye, like I'm trying to be aware of everybody going by, and I'm trying to like be cautious and wave at everybody. And literally this happened as we were going down there. There was four of us, and I went through, and as I go through the first person, I look over out of the corner of my eye, I see this kid on a sled bonsaiing straight for us. And he's coming in behind me, and I don't think the person behind me sees this kid coming. And had I not seen it out of the corner of my eye and been conscious of my surroundings and the other user groups that were there, the likelihood of that kid going right in front of the lady who was right behind me, it wasn't Edith, it was the other couple, it was the lady that was with us. I raised my hand up and I waved and I pointed at the kid, and like the kid at the last second freaked out and grabbed and fell off his sled on purpose to kind of stop from slide. But he got packed, he was super like freaked out that he almost like came in and T-boned the sled. She kind of got freaked out that she didn't see this kid until the last second because she's focused on me in the trail, not looking over to the side here, this kid coming in at a 90-degree angle at 20 miles an hour on a plastic sled. And we had a near miss there too, because again, it's just being conscious of what's going on around you and being respectful of those around you, trying to go through there nice and slow, so we're not like, had we been going through there fast and that happened, like it could have been an accident, someone could have been very seriously hurt. Yeah. So just try to do your part, I guess, is what it comes down to. Anybody who's watching, you guys are doing it, as much as you're absorbing and learning from the snowmobile community, you're also offering help and advice too, and answering people's questions, whether it be about avalanche safety, beacons, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate the fact that you guys are not only taking from the deposits, but you're also depositing and making investments as well. So,
yeah. I would say everybody's learned from each other. The more we learn, the better we get, right?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
And one other side note, I was reading through NWAC the other day, and
sure.
Just for everybody out there in your group, in the groups and stuff, they want more observations from all of us.
Amen.
So if they said they don't even care if you don't know all the terminology or anything, just tell them what you're seeing, and pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Yep.
So post your pictures. They want to see your observations.
Yeah. Nope. Absolutely. And that's the case.
Helps them curtail their forecast.
Yeah. And that's across the country. It's the same thing, right? It doesn't matter if you're in the zone of the Utah Avalanche Center. I mean, the people watch the show from all over the country too. And so it doesn't matter if you're in Utah or Colorado or, Turkey, California, wherever you're at, your local Avalanche Center, submit observations. It's a big deal. And, back on December 13th, I submitted an observation. We had noticed surface ore, like just really dramatic surface ore. And I think they got a lot of that there. And that day, and those pictures that I submitted along with some other people, like those are a very core part of our forecast to date. Like the last 2 weeks has been persistent layer out there. There's persistent slabs that are out there that are sitting on that exact layer of facets that we all had noticed and observed and submitted, and so that all helps continue to drive a better and better forecast. So cool. All right, well, I think we should wrap this up, and I'm looking forward to seeing you two both out in the snow again soon.
Yeah,
Well,
looking forward to seeing you.
We'll see some of you tomorrow.
There you go. Well, I'm going to be working for the next couple days, and then I think we last second here just set up a quick last minute trip next weekend to go out to McCall. So Edith and I are actually going to head out to
Nice.
McCall next Thursday and be gone over the 4-day weekend, and then we'll be back on Sunday again before the next show. So
Awesome.
Awesome.
Pictures, please.
I know, right? All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Again, if you haven't already, please share the show out. We want to continue to get the amazing, messages out to all the communities that are out there in your local area. So, in to win, share. You can get hooked up with a Woody's hoodie and some Idaho and potatoes. So, thank you guys for watching the show tonight and sharing it out. And as I wrap up every show, I tell everybody, live large and God bless you and have a good night.
Thanks, John.